Welcome to the Marketing Meeting podcast. My guest today is Juma Bannister, a good friend of mine, and he is the co-founder and executive creative director for Relate Studios. Relate Studios is a strategic marketing and video production company, and Juma has 2 decades of experience in graphic design, photography, video marketing, and so many more things. Welcome, Juma.
Hi, it's really great to be here, sir. And I know we obviously spoke like this once before you on my podcast, so it's great to catch up on the other side of things.
Exactly. I have a lot of questions and I try to streamline it down to a few only, just to be
Oh,
mindful about the time. But I'm going to start because I know that you've directed over 300 videos and shot over 1 million photographs professionally.
hmm
And you've been working with so many brands. Let's start by addressing some of the tactics, which I'm going to go back to essentials as well. But are there some common misconceptions or mistakes about video that people or brands are doing that now?
Right. Okay. So I think one of the biggest things that brands are getting wrong with video is that they're treating video now like they treated with video probably 10, 15 years ago, which was they makes one piece of video that is very good, very high quality, very high end, and then they slap it on the website and it lives there. And the only way people are going to get to see that video is if they go to their website and happen to go to the homepage or wherever the video lives on whatever page it lives, and then they see the video there. So the video was used as a not as a tool to build relationship. It was used as, oh, you've discovered me already. Now I can come. Now you can come learn some more about me. But that is not how video functions now. Video functions as a always on 24/7 outreach and relationship building tool that companies can use. And so it's a really big misconception, especially for large companies and people who've been in the business for a long time. And they have to shift that thinking into how can I use this not just as something people can come to see, but how can I reach out to people with the content that I create?
There's an important nuance in what you say because you didn't say, I was expecting that you would say something about the formats, like video back in like 10, 15 years ago was different than how we consume formats now. But rather than that, you touch base into something more fundamental. And this comes back to your website, for example. When I open it, it says relationship first, strategic content, marketing, and production.
Mhm.
What does relationship first mean in video marketing?
Okay, so relationship first for us means that you're not just doing the video as a way to accomplish just one single thing and it's done. What you are seeing it as is one of the ways or one of the tactics that you use to continually stay in communication with the people that matter to your business. So, for example, you can make a video that is on social media that discovers new people, is essentially a top of funnel type of piece of content. Maybe it's a definition piece of content. Maybe it's a listicle or something of that sort in video format. But then what will happen is that if you have a longer format piece of content, let's just say a podcast or a live show or something that allows people to go deeper, find out more about how you do your stuff, find out more about your thoughts on the industry and how you can serve them. And they're able to develop a deeper relationship with you. And even when people become your clients, they can still go back out into the public social media spaces and find you speaking there. So the relationship is maintained over a long period of time. So it's not just so what we do is that we see that you don't want to create something for one singular purpose. That thing has to be always able to communicate with the people that matter to your business. So constant communication is essential when you put content out there.
So does that mean that when you are planning for some video content, do you then lean on to the storytelling behind it? Like instead of because when you are getting ready for a video production, it's always the topic of where do we shoot, who do we shoot,
Yeah.
what's the light looking like, how we're going to do the edit and so on.
hmm
Rather than that, you lean on to the narrative part of it, as far as I understand.
Yeah, and so that is one of the things that I love to do. In fact, tomorrow we are going to shoot a project with one of our good clients. It's a financial company, financial services company. It's, I mean, they have multi-billion-dollar investments, and they have a program that is used to reach out to entrepreneurs. And so what they've done, they have set it up in such a way that they want to tell the stories of these entrepreneurs. And last year we did a story video for them with several entrepreneurs, and tomorrow we're going to start doing another set of videos talking about what the people's process looked like. And so it's going to tell the story of the actual entrepreneurs and how the company helped them. So instead of the company saying that we can give you this money to help your business, it's going to show the behind the scenes of how this financing actually impacted them, made them more stable, made them more hopeful, and all of the things surrounding where they were, what changed, and what's the outcome of it. So I think for me, that's one of the biggest things in terms of, especially for medium form video and even short form video, you could do it with them sometimes, that focusing on those stories and those narratives does help, in fact, make people connect with the content and helps deepen the relationship as well. So that's a big deal for me. You hit the nail on the head right there.
So does it mean something like a testimonial video or broader than that?
Well, it's somewhat of a testimonial video. It's somewhat of somebody saying, this is how this thing helped me. This is how this person or this company helped me. And this is how they can help you too. So it's something that shows what that interface or what that interaction was like and how it benefited both parties. But it's more than that. It's giving inside of that too some sense of the emotions behind it, because when you look at and we know that there was in the heyday of ads in the 90s and the 80s when ads were a big thing, like TV ads particularly, a lot of ads that got really critical acclaim, they were emotional ads that make you laugh, ads that make you cry, ads that made you think deep. And the same emotions apply now, except we have different distribution channels for those things, and we have to format it in a different way. And so I think that the important thing is that beyond the saying this is what we do, you also have to activate this is how this thing made me feel. And so you try to connect that inside of people telling stories inside of your video content as well.
So about the relationship first video content. So I understand that one way is to, let some other people that are using your product or your services or a brand do a testimonial, like a testimonial type of video for you. But are there any ways that you don't use your customers, but you create videos that will still connect to the customers? What are some examples that comes to my mind?
Well, okay, so I mean, the vast majority of the time, you're not going to be able to get your actual customers to come and do testimonials for you. Social proof is very important, and I always encourage people to do social proof videos and have people, but sometimes it's just not possible. You can talk about how you've helped, and you can draw your own examples. But also, one of the main things that I like to people to share is how they've actually gone through a process with someone. Like, for example, it's more than just the end product, but you want to show the step-by-step behind the scenes content. And let me see if I could find some way to give an example of that. So we have a client who is into tech and cybersecurity. And we've been doing videos with them for a while now, and it's always been but a lot of the content that we did initially was definition content. Like, what is two-factor authentication? What is this? What is that? And then one day we were with the person, and we told them, well, what is something that has happened to you that is a story that is connected to how you serve people? And so what they did, they were able to tell this story about what very personal about their landlord and how their landlord almost got a phishing attack, and they were able to save them. And it was very personal because they were in the building that was going to be affected if they didn't give the landlord the right advice. And so they were able to save the landlord from sending money to a hacker's account, and it tied right back into what they do. So their expertise and their story connected, and they were able to show not just what they do, but they were able to show how it really impacted someone in real life. And I think showing that behind the scenes process, and that's not a testimonial from the landlord, that is them talking about what happened behind the scenes in order for them to serve somebody who really was in a bind and needed their expertise. Yeah, so that worked in that way.
Perfect. We just recently did a testimonial type of video production for a client of mine. And then the best thing about that is, there are like some features of the product that they have, and also there are like some strengths of the company that they have. And I would want to really take out these words from the client while I'm interviewing that person. And then since I was able to ask the right questions, and also the product itself is that really, the clients were like advocating for features like reliability, security, or like the trust that they feel working with these people. And I was just like, this is so good, because I mean, rather than us writing security or trust on our own to our website, or, the founder saying that, someone like a client, real client, and it's a corporate firm saying that this company is a company that we trust a lot. So
Yes.
it was really helpful. And also if once the client advocates for you, it's also like making them feel more connected to the client. So it's kind of a client building thing as well. So I'm completely with you on that.
Yeah, most definitely.
So we understand that relationship first video matters a lot. What are some other essential elements of a video that makes it more engaging? I'm talking about, like, is it colors, or is it light, or music, emotions?
Yeah, so there's some technical things that really help communicate well. Because and I mentioned this earlier to you, because we were wedding photographers before, we were exposed to a lot of beginning relationships. And one of the things that happened in recent time, we went back and we spoke to some of our past clients who had been married for more than 8 years, because that point in your marriage is where things that's 7 8 years things tend to fall apart if they have to fall apart. Once you get past that
Yeah.
line, things generally stabilize and it's good, right?
Yeah.
And so we did a poll we did like 17 of our past couples, a collective relationship experience of over 204 years. And in the poll, one of the things we asked them is, what was the thing that caused them to have this long term, stable relationship? Of course, we asked them in the poll, do you consider yourself to have a successful relationship? Everyone said yes. What's the top 5 things? And something that came up 11 out of the 17 times in the poll was communication. And so we said, okay, good. How does communication translate into video content? And what are you trying to do when someone sees your video content? And part of that communication is purely visual. It's technical. And so I always tell people, when you do video content, you want to start with a blank slate, which is a dark room. And then you want to add things like light, you want to add things like sound, you want to add things like framing, you want to add things like composition, you want to add all those different things. So for example, some people are going to hear this and some people are going to see this. But if you see the room that I'm in right now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. I have 5 lights going in this one room to form this look that I'm having. So light is very important. How you look to arrange your light, whether it's high, whether it's low, whether you use a large light, soft light source, or use a hard, harsh light source. It depends on the emotion you want to convey and communicate. And that's an important thing. How you frame the person is also important. Do you want them center frame? Because you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to use this content later on? Because one of the things we're thinking about for our project that we have on tomorrow is framing them up in the center so it can be used both in 16:9 and 9:16 when it goes to short form social media. That's another technical consideration. But also to tell the story, you want these people to be front and center. And so we have a wide frame. We're planning to do one wide and we're planning to do one close up so we can punch in and out. When the person says something that is very important to the story, we're going to zoom in on them and get this nice rich close up. And when they're talking about more ethereal parts or maybe less solid parts of the story, we could zoom out and then we could cover that with B-roll. And so there are a lot of technical considerations that come together to communicate the message you want to communicate. So lighting, framing, composition, sound is so important, and we often lord over having multiple sound sources when we go out on the field to create content for people. I don't know if you want me to get more technical. I don't know if
However you like.
Get more technical. And so we generally try to I'm not going to get into the names, but shotgun the interviewee, or if we have to hide the mic and mic them up in a hidden way so that they could talk freely without having to see the mic when they're saying what they have to say. But whatever it is, some big considerations when you are doing your content is that it has to look and feel right. The light has to be right. The background has to look the right way. So we often go into the background and say, let's remove this, let's remove that. Let's make sure the space around the person's head is clear. Let's make sure the depth of field is right. Let's make sure that they have short lighting so that the light is coming from the right direction. So all of those different things. I mean, I could go on and on about, I get excited about these technical things as well. So I think I'm going to stop myself from going further.
I mean, like what is also important, like these are like very valuable feedback, like comments to share, but also like for someone like me, I'm just recording podcasts and I'm at my home. Is it still like what are the things that I should worry about the most? What are the fundamentals, like top 3 things? Or
okay, for you, all those things are still relevant. So there are three things. Of course, number 1 will be your sound. How you sound is most important. And I know you have that locked down. You have a Shure MV7, I think it is.
Yeah, MV7.
MV7, I think I got that right? So that will give you the sound that you want. Very important. The second thing is your light, how you light yourself. Right now, you have a window off to your right, which is like giving a rim light around your hair. And maybe that's good, but you may want, and we were just talking about this before we came on, you need another light for the front, right? And I will always recommend that if someone is doing this type of podcast and they're doing it inside of their own space, get a large ring light if that's all you can get. And I normally recommend an 18-inch ring light. Both of the I have 2 ring lights going right now. Both of them are 18-inch ring lights. And the reason for that is because the bigger the light source, generally you find that the softer the light will be. And the closer the light source is to the subject, the softer the light will be. And so bigger light source means it's more than likely that you'll look better. And who doesn't want to look better on camera, right? Bigger the light source. So you don't want to get one of those tiny lights. It's like a flashlight that's shining in your eye and it doesn't look good. And the last thing, when you can afford it, so you have your sound first, then you have your light. And the last thing is getting some kind of camera that will allow for crisp visuals. And people really lord over this because they don't know what camera to buy. Cameras are expensive. What do I buy? One with interchangeable lenses? Do I just use my phone? What should I do? If you have nothing else, of course, you can use your phone. But when you want to upgrade, you can get a mirrorless camera with interchangeable lens. There's the cheapest and probably the best one out there these days is the Sony ZV-10. I don't know how this will age when I say that. Maybe there will be a ZV-10 2 or some other thing. The camera I'm using right now is actually Sony Alpha, the A7 IV, which is a much higher end camera with a 28 to 70 2.8 lens, technical again. But it makes the thing very good because if I put my hand up to the camera, it should focus on my hand, which it's not doing right now. Oh, there we go. It's focusing on my hand right now. And it will focus back on me. So it automatically, so it doesn't matter where I move in the frame. It will stay on my face, it will stay on my eyes, and I'll always be sharp and in focus. The camera I had before was an older camera that couldn't do that. So I had to make sure and stay exactly on this spot when I started the podcast. So if you're someone who moves around in your podcast a lot, you may slide your chair left, right, or forward or back. Then you'd want a camera that can autofocus on you. And I generally recommend the Sony line of mirrorless cameras, which are very useful for that type of thing.
There's a belief that, lately especially, the scrappy and unpolished videos work better than, not a cinema grade, but like produced videos. But still, like in the streets of New York, I usually see people trying to look like scrappy on the videos, but then you see like all the lights around. This influencer taking some shots as if she's taking it from her iPhone. What's your thought on that?
I think if there's a place for that, and it's true that people's minds over the last few years have been trained to identify when something is high production and kind of reject that. And they see things like that as ads, and nobody likes ads anymore. Everybody wants to skip ads. And so the more organic it can look, the more likely it is someone will give it the time of day. And that is the rationale behind it, that it looks more authentic if you have lower quality, if you do it vertical. But the fact of the matter is that all of the phones that we're getting right now, they're just high quality. They just produce great videos. So that gap from low quality to high quality is closing very, very fast. And so even when people try to make it seem like it's organic, people are getting smart enough to know, oh, that's not as organic as you're trying to make it seem. And a good example of that is user-generated content. Now, I know you would have encountered that. When user-generated content first became a thing, it was 100% organic. People used to take products and they would use it and they would have a good experience and they would post about it. Now, user-generated content is about finding an unknown influencer to endorse the product. And that's basically what it's become. And in my mind, that is not user-generated. That's the same as influencer marketing. But, I digress. But the main thing is that that type of content can be very appealing still, but people are getting smart to when people fake it. So be authentic, and how you do it is the best advice I can give.
I think it gets harder and harder every day for brands and also for influencers to understand what would appeal to the people. Because as you said, even a scrappy video can look like an ad. Because I was just checking the seats of a plane that I booked 2 days ago, and I was checking like some of the videos to see, okay, which one is the right seat because it's a long flight. And then I recognize that every aviation influencer, let's say, they are taking content at a similar way. It's always the same. It's the same thing and same thing and same thing. I'm just like, it's just like everything is looking the same. So I think it's just like the time where we need to get creative about how we produce content. Going to a little bit of the technicalities then, I would like to talk about the video lengths and formats that works the best. I know that it depends on the channel and so on. Maybe let's take YouTube, for example, first of all, as a channel. What type of content do you think is now working better there? Because also they're trying, let's say, short form as well, vertical short form. But is there space for that?
At YouTube Shorts have come a long, long way. They were trying to figure out how to use them some time ago when it became a thing. At first, people would just make a whole channel simply for the YouTube Shorts. Now, most of the channels are mixed media. They have short form, they have shorts as well as long form on the same channel, which works well for some people too. I think that people are getting so accustomed to consuming the short form content, which is now kind of between like optimally like 1.5 minutes. It was under 1 minute before, but most channels are reporting now that hovering just around a minute. And I think what caused that is TikTok only monetizes a minute and over. So people are trying to make their videos longer.
Okay.
And so YouTube, for me, for the short videos, is going to hover around there, around 1 minute. And that is fine. I don't have any data to support longer videos than that being good. I know I have data to support the under, like the 1 minute being done well. And in terms of, and the rest of it is highly subjective in terms of the length of video, depending on the type of content you're producing, how you're telling your stories, what's the purpose of it, who's the audience, and all those different things. Most videos, people try to get it above 8 minutes now, because 8 minutes you can get a pre-roll, mid-roll, and end ad, and you can get paid for all three. So most people try to make their YouTube videos above 8 minutes and above now. So you would see most videos like hovering around 10 minutes, 11 minutes, but above 8. And then, of course, you have the podcasts, which are 2 hours and 2.5 hours, which is a totally different beast altogether. But I would say most people, if they're trying to aiming to make videos medium length, more medium format, around 8 to 15 minutes is like a good format to have around there. Good length of time.
What do you think about like podcasts being integrated into YouTube? Because that's also what I'm doing. Like I also post to YouTube, but I'm now thinking about what's next, because it's just like it's getting a few views, like 100 views. That's it. Is there a thing that would evolve in that space?
Yeah, I was kind of sad when Google gave up their podcast platform, the audio one, and kind of put everything into one with YouTube. And most people have come across, granted that they had a video component. I've seen some people just put the audio with probably the title of the podcast as a video now, and that's how they're doing it. And maybe that works, maybe that doesn't work. I don't know if that works or not. I like the idea and the thought of it, because it gives us a dedicated video platform for podcasts, like a space for video. Like they're going to say this is for this purpose and it's dedicated. And of course you have the tools and everything surrounding that helps make it easier for us to organize our podcasts and label them and put the thumbnails and all those different things. And of course we have Spotify doing that now too. I spoke with somebody who is a podcast coach, and they kind of explained this to me some time ago. And I think what they were saying is that at that time, it wasn't, we should do it. They were telling me, go ahead and do it. But as of now, it wasn't beneficial. That is last year, right? Go ahead and categorize it as a podcast, but it wasn't beneficial. Like as in, putting your podcast on a regular YouTube channel made more sense last year. I don't know what makes sense this year, because these things change fast. So I have to dig back in and find out what works and what doesn't work, because I know some people have refused to put their podcast in the podcast format on their platform, and they've just made them regular YouTube videos, which you can do. It's just not going to get categorized when people search for it in that way. So the jury is out on that one. I don't know which works best. I have to do research on that one.
I think the problem is like when it's a podcast video, it's like for 2 hours, let's say, or although mines are like 14 minutes. For 2 hours, you are watching the same people talking, sitting next to each other and talking. That's it. So you would assume that it will be a bit boring because it's a channel. But I also feel that, for example, podcasts like All in One. I don't know if you know that, like four guys, chatting, and we always watch it on YouTube, not on podcast. Because I just open it in the back, and then while they are talking, I just do like some work and then clean the floor and so on, which takes like 5 minutes only. So, and then, it's just like, I think it feels like more of a TV show type of thing where someone is discussing back to back about things. So, I also have mixed feelings about that, but I still keep on putting it there. For me to figure out later on. So
But let me ask you though, what? So essentially, that for you, it's an audio podcast because you're not paying attention to the visuals.
I mean, well, I don't have a light or whatever, but I'm not putting any like extra editing efforts to the video. I mean, it's just like I'm just putting it out there without any editing. It's just like it starts and it ends, just like we recorded now. But for podcasts, for the audio one, we edit it. Like we just cut the
All
parts
right.
that we don't like. So I don't know.
No, no. What I was asking is, so you described a scenario there where you put this podcast on that you like, and then you go do something else while you're listening to it,
Yeah.
right? Right.
But I
So,
sometimes sit and watch.
oh, you sometimes
Although
sit and watch too. Oh,
it's
okay.
like the four
Okay. Okay.
guys speaking. I don't know.
Yeah.
I cannot tell the reasons, like emotional reasons behind it, but it's just like instead of listening to it and doing some other things, I sometimes sit and watch. That's it. So I think there's like some things to explore still there. And we
Yeah.
also see a lot of TV hosts and TV show people, TV producers are also going into podcast because of this fact that people actually just watch a podcast
Yes.
on video as well.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to ask a question about the tools for video content creation, but I'm more of interested about not the professional level, because if I need professional level video production for a company or for
Outsource.
I'll just outsource it to to the
Outsource.
experts like you, like your
Right.
company. But for people that are doing it on their own,
Yeah. Yeah.
are there some tools that you would recommend?
All right. So I recently, and it depends on your budget and what you can afford. Audio is very important, and so you would want to get something that will give you clean, clear, crisp audio. The budget audio, the budget mic category has ballooned over the last couple of years. And then there's a kind of a mid tier. So there are cheap ones, unbranded mics that you could use that will plug into your USB-C on your Android, or USB-C or Lightning on your Apple. Generic type of mics that clip onto your shirt. Those are not very good, but they are better than most times just having your regular mic if you're far away from your phone. Now, what has happened is that this mid-tier category has been growing fast. And so you have DJI in their mix with their wireless mic for phones and for mirrorless cameras. You have Hollyland, which has two good products on the market. And you have Rode with multiple products on the market. The
We
most
can add we can add the links, by the way, to the episode. Yeah.
right. And so I haven't used the Rode ones, but I've used DJI and I've used the Hollyland products. In fact, I have two of the Hollyland products. I have the Hollyland Lark M2, which is one of the most popular ones on the market right now. In fact, might be the most well-used wireless mobile phone mic on the market right now of a certain quality, of like prosumer level. So that might be the best option. There's a new version to that, which I also bought and I use now for my content, which is the Hollyland Lark M2S, which it's a bit of a different form factor. The Lark M2, it's circular and there's a magnet that you use to clip onto your shirt or your blouse or your t-shirt or whatever it is. The Hollyland Lark M2S uses a kind of like, it's almost like a paper clip. You clip it on by sliding it on your collar or where your button up goes. And that's what I use. The nice thing about the Hollyland Lark M2S is that if you're recording a podcast, in the kit, you get two mics. I can give one to you, my guest, or you can give one to me if I'm your guest. And the podcast is recorded on your phone and it goes to separate channels, stereo left and stereo right. And so you have two distinct channels you can then combine together in order to make the podcast recording, which means that if you have any parts that you want to cut out, if there's any over talking, it can be easily edited. The same applies for the DJI wireless mic. I can't exactly remember the name, but it's going to be easy to find. They're always comparing these two mics, the DJI and the Hollyland mics, those portable wireless mics. They're always comparing the two, and the same thing can be done for those. My major grouse with any of these mics is that what has happened over the past few years too is that these mics were a certain size, they were kind of big, and they've been getting smaller. However, they still insist on putting their logos on the front of the mics, which I hate, right? It's supposed to be inconspicuous. You are not supposed to be advertising for DJI or Rode or Hollyland while somebody's doing a recording. Thankfully, the Lark M2S, it's small, inconspicuous, has no branding, and the M2 has a sticker that you can use to cover the logo, which makes it a lot less inconspicuous. And we've used it for corporate jobs as well. We just have to edit the audio in post, and it sounds pretty good. So that's my take on those consumer level mic products. Other things people can get, 18-inch ring light if you are doing stuff for yourself at home. And of course, use your phone to record everything. I use my phone to record probably like 90-something% of my videos. I have an iPhone 16 Pro.
Mine is just sitting here on the side. I clearly need to get some guidance from you.
Yeah, you can use it. I mean, like if you'll see any of my vertical videos, the vast majority, 95% of them are recorded with my phone. You know what makes a difference? The light. The light makes a massive difference. And I've told people this for years. My videos are not all that special. They just lit well. And if you light it well, it will stand. It will look good. So that's what people need to know.
I'm going to get that ring light soon. But is there like a software that you recommend for editing, or like a practical software that is practical for everyday people?
Well,
like me?
The practical free one is CapCut, which everybody uses. That's the practical free one. Everybody knows that name by now. It's proliferated the market because it's free and it's good. When you get free and good together, you can't lose. And CapCut, there is mobile, there is web, and there is the app. So there are 3 versions of the software that make it, basically, it's become ubiquitous in the content creator space right now. I, however, don't really use it. Surprise, surprise. What I use is Descript for most of my editing. And I pay for that. I pay a monthly fee for it, or yearly fee. I can't remember how I pay now. But it's so good because it's one of the first pieces of software that came out with text editing video, where if we talk together and we delete a piece of text inside of the transcript, it will edit the video accordingly. And because they were early to the market with that, they became almost the de facto podcast editing software for some time. Now, there are other people that do it now, but I continue to use them because they're always adding features, very easy to use. And I just love, now they have AI built in like everyone else does. And it's just making my editing process much, much easier, much faster. And I can get my podcast and my other content out in a much more timely manner. Yeah.
I think in Riverside, for example, it allows you to do that, right? Like you can cut the sentences, but then the script is a bit different than that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the platforms now have introduced those things. And so when Descript first started, it was just an editor. And then they bought Squadcast to compete with Riverside and compete with other platforms. Now, and they added it on for free. So I went from having an editor to having a podcast recording platform that I can now connect to my editor. So all I need to do is click one button and it goes into the editor in multi-track. And then it can just be, and you can AI edit it. You can click one button and it will do all the camera back and forth for you. So
you're talking about the script, right?
Yeah, the script. Yeah. So like if I record a podcast with anyone now, I just go and I say to the software, I can't remember exactly how it's phrased, but essentially do angles of both people when they talk. And it will ask me, do you want to include like both of you all on the screen at the same time sometimes? And I would say yes, put in some of that as well. And it just cut the entire thing. And all I need
Okay.
to go through now is just go and see what it looks like. And when I introduce you, I will be up. When you introduce yourself, and I just make small tweaks on it along the way, and I don't have to manually do all that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
Mm-hmm.
they have the presets with the intro. You just drag that in, you drag that in. And so editing a podcast has gone from like 3 hours probably down to just over the time the podcast took to record,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's much easier now.
How about like the new platforms like Opus Clip and so on? You just throw your video in there and create snippets with the help of AI for you. Because I have mixed feelings about those still.
All right. Okay. So I've used Opus Clip. I've used
Uh-huh.
it. I did the trial with it to see how it was. Opus Clip is useful, but it's kind of, it does the thing that you don't want to do, which is to have, it probably cuts 2 really great clips and then like 6 mediocre clips and then like 4 bad ones.
Yeah.
And those first 2 are ones you would cut anyway. So maybe it is good to help identify what those clips are.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones, it's probably not a good idea to put those out, because they don't really have the impact that you want it to have. It doesn't speak to the audience the way you want it to speak to the audience. And so it's good for identifying the parts of the conversation that probably could interest people, but you definitely still have to go and see if that is what you want to say.
Yeah.
And by the way, Opus Clip might be the most popular one, but just as everything else out here, it's not the only one. And I would tell people, and this is my big secret for software over the years, and I know many people will know this, but I keep on telling people this: go to AppSumo, see what they have. You know AppSumo, right?
No, but I hear it from you.
Listen, Iter, listen. We have 3 major pieces of software that we use on a regular basis that we paid for once and never have to pay for again. No subscriptions. And one of those pieces of software, it was an audio platform, something called Upbeat. We have a lifetime subscription bought from AppSumo for a few years now. And sometimes the companies fold. Sometimes they die, right? And then your investment is lost. But sometimes it pays off. And Upbeat was one of those that paid off. So we've been using high premium quality audio for the last 3 years, and now they've introduced motion graphics. Now they've introduced sound effects. Now they've introduced all different sorts of different AI audio and stuff. And everybody else is paying a subscription, and we don't because we got in early.
It's like a lifetime subscription than yours.
It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime. And I take the risk sometimes. Sometimes I go through the library and say, what do we really need? What are we spending money on right now that we would not want to spend money on for the next 5 years? And I say, okay, I look for that software and I say, look at what they have, look at the ratings, and I say, okay, we're going to pay $99 once. Pay the $99. And, so far I'm about 7 out of 10 good purchases. Some of the other companies folded, But,
So then on top of the ring light, I need to have the script. I need to check that. And I need to check AppSumo then, right?
100% check AppSumo. They have software that will help. Let's put it that way. Go check it out, see what software they have, and you might come across a gem that will last you the next 5 years.
Okay, so I know that we talked about the narrative, we talked about the formats, and we talked about the types of tools that we need for the production. But when the video is produced and it's out there, are there some other things that we need to pay attention? Is it the thumbnail? Because I know that for YouTube, thumbnails are quite important to attract, but it's now all the same. If you ask me, everything is looking the same right now.
Yeah, everybody has the same formulas. The formulas is show someone's face, have some yellow text on it. It's basically the same thing. In the same way, a lot of videos look the same. Have the captions, the colorful captions that get bigger and smaller when people talk, and have some emojis and stuff like that. Everything is the same. What I would tell people is to find their style, find their own style, find a way that works for them and stick to that style. And so for our videos in particular, I have tried a few things, but over the years, one thing that's been consistent is that we always end with "it's good to relate." And we always use text as a way to call main points out that fill the screen. So there are two things that we do. And I try to make the thumbnails now. People say put faces. Everyone is putting faces. I'm going to say just put the text on the thumbnail. That's just my way of doing it, right? There is probably a right and a wrong way, but I know that there is a good way and probably a better way as well. So there are some things that are proven, that tested and proven. Faces on your thumbnails that have some kind of show some kind of action or some kind of emotional response in your thumbnail. If you're putting text, you don't put the text as any title. You just want one strong statement that sparks curiosity. The things are out there. Everybody knows how to do it. I would say find what works for you. Find what works for you. Find anything that is, and here's how I look at it. There are three elements to that. Number one is what you're good at, right? You might not be good at it and you might want to outsource it, but if you're good at it, do it. What you like to do, and that is in terms of how the thumbnail looks. There's probably a look that you like. It might not be the right look, and I'm using quotes here. It might not be the right look, but it might be something that you like, that is in alignment with your particular brand, your visuals. And then the third thing is what you like to do, what you can do, and then what you have the time to do. So you don't want to spend 2 hours working on one thumbnail, right? You want to be able to do something that's quick and that works. And if you find the balance between those three things, you're able to produce something consistently. Being able to produce something at probably 80% perfection consistently is better than trying to produce something at 100% perfection probably 1 or 2 times a year or whatever it might be. Just try to make it so that it makes your life easier, so you don't have to think about it too much, and then you will actually do it.
Yeah. I mean, this goes back to just an hour ago. I was just thinking about my podcast and all the other things, and I was just like thinking about, okay, the intro, the music, it's been there for like 2 years now, and I said, I mean, like, do I want to touch it? Because I like it, it's fine, but it's the same voice and the same sound 2 years, and it's probably only me who's hearing it like for like the 100th time. And I said, I mean, if it's working and it's fine, and if there are still some things that I have to fix other than the music, then why bother with the music right now? I'm just like focus on the other things. So that, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be a new music like every 2 years or every year, whatever. So yeah, it's good to hear it from someone that is an expert in this field.
So I know you interviewed Christo, right?
Yeah.
So I interviewed Chris as well. Some people listening to the podcast might know who he is. He's been using the same music for his podcast from the start to now.
Oh, okay.
same music. And he credits the guy. The guy is credited as, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he credits the guy at the end of the podcast. He's been using the same music from the start. And so I'm saying, well, I've been using, I made the music for my podcast. I had a production phase where I was producing music, and I made the music for my podcast. And I said to myself, if this podcast ever gets big, I don't want to have to be worried about music that someone made, right? So I made the music for myself, and I use that music, and that music is going to continue to be used until this version of the podcast is done. So do things that are important, not things that are that you just like, you feel like you need to do. Do whatever is important.
And finally, where do you see video evolving in the next 1 year? I don't say 5 years because
things are moving too fast.
Time. Even a year is sometimes a long time. But what do you see as an evolution this year?
All right. So one of the problems that we're having right now with video getting to people is that the content has switched from like subject-based to interest-based, not subject-based, switch from social-based to interest-based. And that is mostly TikTok's fault because what they've done, they've made it so that the algorithm serves you things that you're interested in. And so what is happening now, the subscribers and followers have less weight, and it's more of whether your content is engaging whether your content is entertaining, whether your content is what people want to find and see. And I think as a result of that, people are going to have to find ways to put content on different platforms so that when people go to different platforms, they can still engage with them. And so it's going to be, so while I still support the whole idea of focus on one platform, build it out there, and then expand, I think people are going to have to start to think about multiple platforms earlier, because it's a case of you're fighting against interests which are varied, and you'll see something from someone one day, you like the thing, but for some reason you don't see them again for 2 weeks, even though you're subscribed to them, even though you have been looking at their videos consistently. And it's not that they're not putting out content, but if you are on multiple platforms, then you have the opportunity to show up again in someone's feed. And so I think for the future, for video in the future, it's going to be not everywhere like how Gary Vee did it, but you're going to have to make some calculated decisions and strategic decisions about where you want to place your content, so that when interest-based algorithms start to work even harder, because Instagram is adopting it, YouTube is adopting it, they're kind of following TikTok's lead, that you're still going to be in front of the people who really want to see your content as well. So I think that's important over the next year or so.
Perfect. So to wrap up with, I have 2 lifestyle questions. One of them is there any book that you highly suggest to people to read? It can be a business book or another book.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one of my OG books, and I'm going to give you one I've kind of read, but haven't read yet, technically. So one of my OG books is Mark Schaefer is Known, which is a personal branding book, which I really love, right? Mark has been on my show already, and we talked about it. And it really helped me kind of establish who I wanted to be when I started social media. And I will give a special mention to John Experience Content DNA as well, which I also read. I'll give a special shout out to John. Right now, and I'm thinking about a lot of books in my mind, lots and lots of books. But right now, the book that I am going to read is from Louis Granier. So that is STFO. I'm not going to say the words, stand out. Right? It's been released last year. It's doing extremely well. I actually were one of the people who helped him proofread the book. So that's why I said I kind of read it, but I didn't read it at the same time. And my copy is in the mail right now, heading to me.
Nice.
And I still bought. There was a sale on it on Kindle for 99 cents like recently, so I bought that too. But I haven't read it yet. But I kind of know some of what is in the book because I got to proofread it. So I would say, for positioning, for knowing who you are, for finding out what products and services you should focus on, Louis Granier's STFO, and get that one as well.
Perfect. And last question is, what's your favorite coffee place in where you live?
You know what? I don't drink coffee.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I don't drink coffee. I'm very what was it? I don't get out a lot.
But I mean, do you drink tea or something else? And is there a favorite place for that?
Okay. I drink tea. I drink tea at home. So I don't have a favorite coffee place. What I can tell people, and I don't know if this might not be totally relevant, I have lots of favorite places I like to hike, which is important to me. So those places around, because I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, so there are lots of different places we go to. There's Mount Tabor, there's St. Michael's, there is a place called Breezy Hill, there's Paria, there's Paragrant, multiple places that we go to. But one of my favorite places, if you're ever in Trinidad and Tobago and you come and you want to do a short hike, it's like 2 kilometers. It's a place called Mount Tabor, which is in Mount St. Benedict. It's beautiful, beautiful. When you get up to the top and the wind starts to blow, it sounds like the sea. It sounds like waves crashing. It sounds beautiful. If you come on a good day, a nice windy day, and the wind rushes through the trees, you hear it's an experience when you hear it. So
Oh, okay.
I love that.
Perfect, perfect. And that was the beach that you recommended to me. What was it called?
Which one,
It was a
Maracas?
it was a it has a different name.
Which one?
Famous beach.
Okay, the most famous beach in Trinidad and Tobago is Maracas Beach, and in Tobago there is the most famous beach in Tobago, which is the sister isle of Trinidad, is Pigeon Point.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the two beaches that are most popular.
So we couldn't get the favorite coffee place, but we got the favorite hiking place, which was amazing, as you described, and also the favorite beaches. Thanks so much, Juma, for being on my podcast. And I hope to meet you in person soon as well.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm ever in New York, I'll send you a note or something, and I could just come to the city. Hopefully this year I'll be doing a little more traveling. So let's see what happens with that.
Thank you so much.